On this webinar. We'll be doing a little bit of a deep dive into the DACH region. I'm Shamini, I'm a partnerships director at VIOOH, and I look after our media owner partnerships in this region. Just a quick note before we start, this webinar is being recorded and there will be a Q&A session at the end. So yeah, we encourage questions, please do ask them, and you can do so via the function at the bottom of the screen, and we will address them at the end of the session. So let me start by telling you a little bit about VIOOH. VIOOH is a global digital out-of-home marketplace. It's a supply-side platform connecting the supply with the demand. We're connected to a pool of market-leading media owners globally, which then gives us access to over 20,000 digital out-of-home screens, including exclusive access to DOOH inventory. On the demand side, we're connected and trading with over 40 DSPs, and on the slide here, you'll see an overview of our connections. As mentioned, VIOOH has a global reach. We're currently live and trading in 19 markets across the globe, with plans to expand to more in the near future. So each region that we're live and trading in is unique in some way and have their own dynamics. And for that reason, we think it's valuable to hone in on local expertise within these markets and these regions. So for this particular webinar, we're focused on the DACH region, and we've invited representatives from our media owners to give you that local perspective, that local flavor, and have you informed of the potential opportunities in this region. So a little bit about the DACH region. In case you're familiar, you may not be familiar with it. The region comprises of 3 countries where German is the first language spoken by the vast majority of the people. And those 3 countries are Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. It has a total population of 100 million, and the majority of the population, almost 80%, reside in Germany. The DACH region is among the most developed in the world, and this is reflected in the strong economy and the high standard of living. And in general, the DACH countries have a large GDP per capita and annual average purchasing power. So that's always a positive sign when we're thinking about where to spend your advertising budgets. So why DACH? Why consider this region? There are many reasons why. I'm just sharing a few for you to ponder on. In this region alone, the projected digital ad spend potential for this year is 13 billion euros, and that's a sizable opportunity there. On the VIOOH platform last year, the DACH region accounted for over 1/3 of the programmatic revenue trading through our platform, and we forecast and are seeing a similar trend this year as well. And then in terms of brands that have traded programmatic digital out-of-home campaigns through VIOOH in this region, we saw over 300 unique brands trading through us, with interest from new brands and advertisers growing frequently. We also see a trend of repeat advertisers trading programmatically. We see almost 50% of the brands that have traded programmatically in this region this year to date, are repeat advertisers, which again supports that these brands are seeing the value in programmatic digital out-of-home in this market. And then last but not least, VIOOH also released a white paper last year on the German state of the nation. And one of the findings was that over half of the campaigns in Germany have included programmatic digital out-of-home in the last 18 months. And that statement just highlights the growing influence and opportunity of programmatic digital out-of-home in the market, and in turn, the whole region. So what's the offering at VIOOH? What do we have in this region? At VIOOH, we currently have around 10,000 digital screens, accounting for over 3 billion monthly impressions in the DACH region. We offer inventory across some of the biggest media owners and market leaders in this region, including WallDecaux and Gewista. WallDecaux and Gewista are both part of the DOOH family, and they represent premium out-of-home inventory all over Germany and all over Austria. We also have Media Frankfurt. Frankfurt is the exclusive media owner for one of Europe's most important hubs, which is Frankfurt Airport. We have APG. APG is an industry leader in their own market, which is the Switzerland market, and FRAMEN, who are leading who are a leading digital out-of-home marketplace offering advertising solutions at venues such as office, gyms, hotels, and gas stations, to name a few. So as you can see on this map, the coverage across this region is vast. We have inventory across most major cities from Berlin, Vienna, Frankfurt, Zurich, and Munich, just to name a few. These cities are like mini hubs and provide various opportunities. So Munich in Germany, for example, is a city with the highest purchasing power in Germany. And as we chat with our panelists shortly, we'll be discussing such opportunities further. The offering in the region also covers a vast range of inventory types and environments. So we have street furniture, we have malls, to more transport-like environments such as airports, rail, roadside. And then on the other side of things, we have semi-public spaces such as office spaces, gyms, hotels, and the list goes on. You'll see on the right-hand side a couple of examples. Here are just some visual examples of some of the screens in the region, from impactful billboards at Frankfurt Airport to roadside inventory from WallDecaux in Germany. We have street furniture inventory in Switzerland and Austria to screens in the Westville malls in Austria. These are just a few examples, but as I mentioned, the coverage is vast in this region. And this inventory complements a vast range of audiences and reach. For example, high flyers are very relevant to airport inventory like Zurich and Frankfurt airports. There is premium inventory close to shopping areas or stores, which allows advertisers to effectively target an audience of shoppers. And then with the combination of environments such as roadside, street furniture, rails, hotels, there is that opportunity to address commuters on the move. So this is just some examples of audiences that you can reach in this region. But as we chat with our panelists, we'll delve into more insights around the audiences and the offering in this region. So on that note, let me introduce you to my colleague Jem and also to our panelists who'll be providing us with their local expertise.
Thank you, Shamini. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this morning. I am Jem Jamal, Global New Business Lead here at VIOOH. So I speak to international advertisers, I speak to agencies, and work very closely alongside our media owner partners to help advertisers get the best of what we have. So really excited to bring you the DACH region today with exciting panelists. And without any further ado, I'll hand over to them to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Do you want to start, Michael, or should I start?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, because the problem is we have two Michaels, so it's sometimes a bit confusing. My name is Michael Pevec. I'm leading the Programmatic digital out-of-home business here in Switzerland.
Perfect. Then let me go on with the other Michael. I'm Michael Fritz. I'm the head of programmatic sales for WallDecaux, or at WallDecaux, and I'm responsible for all the digital inventories and especially the programmatic requests we get for our digital inventory. Next, Florian.
Sorry, thought we do this by the pictures in a row. But yeah, I'm Florian. I'm from Gewista in Austria. I introduced programmatic to the market here at Gewista in Austria, and I'm basically the father of the whole product here. I lead the data unit here, and I'm closely aligned with the sales team that does programmatic. Next one.
Hey everyone, I may go on. My name is Felix. I work for Media Frankfurt. As Shamini already mentioned, we belong to Frankfurt Airport, and I take care of our programmatic offer. Next one.
Cool. There might be some technical issues, but Paul is basically the director of programmatic sales at FRAMEN, which is one of our newer partners that have joined the VIOOH family. I'm very excited to have them and all of our other media owners in the region on board. But let's get cracking with the questions. As mentioned, there are two Michaels, but we'll start with Michael Fritz. Michael, at the moment, for the local level, you're running advertising across the DACH region for clients. What are the kind of client requests that you're seeing, and how do you connect each of the markets?
Thanks, Jam. Good question. I think it really depends on the size and the maturity of a client or an agency. You know, there are some, of course, these big clients like L'Oreal, Vodafone's, or our local groceries like Rewe or Lidl. They have very good, experienced in-house teams that have capabilities to handle programmatic digital out-of-home campaigns on their own, not only digital out-of-home or other programmatic channels as well. And for them, we usually forward the contact persons in each country in Switzerland and Austria, or from Frankfurt Airport directly to them, because they have the resources to deal with each market individually and to request the deal and that stuff. But there are a lot of inquiries, I would say, where we try to be the single point of contact. Because you often have the case that these medium-sized and small-sized companies have limited budgets, and the issue here is that if you imagine you would like to run a campaign with about, I don't know, 50,000 euros across all three markets, the share is often like 70% Germany, 15% Switzerland, 15% Austria. Then you have about 5,000 or 7,000 euros left for each country, and then it makes no sense to have a direct content, or it's too much effort on the client side for them. That is why we try to be the single point of contact. And the nice thing here is that we all use the same technical platform, so it makes it very easy for us to set up deals across the markets. But on the other hand, you have the challenge that we try to make the customers feel each market is kind of similar, that a campaign appears the same what they know from Germany, due to the difference in portfolios and languages, what Shemini mentioned before, and what we will be mentioned later on, I guess.
Fantastic, thank you. And you know, we find that as well, Michael, when we have clients looking at the region, Germany does take up the lion's share, which kind of leads nicely for the next question, really, because we see that Germany, alongside the UK, is one of the most important markets that are asked about clients considering to run campaigns in EMEA. But with Austria and Switzerland also possibly being added to the mix, what should international advertisers consider? Florian, I mean, what is it that Austria and possibly Switzerland can bring as an extension to their Germany campaigns? What are the benefits they can expect by adding these markets?
Thanks for the question. I think Austria, well, lumping Austria and Switzerland together here is a bit of a weird one, because we're ultimately quite different countries regarding language, etc. But ultimately, I think a lot comes down to similarities and patterns, which plays insanely well into what programmatic ought to do based on similarities and patterns in an automated and efficient way, more or less, which means you obviously have different countries, but what unites us all is, in general, we have a high GDP and purchase power in the area. And if a client plans to do Germany, doing Switzerland and Austria is not too far away from a logistical standpoint, and it adds 20 million more people with a high spending power to the mix. Also saying specifically, okay, my little one, sorry, he says I'm too loud. Also specifically regarding Austria, a lot of the brands present in Germany, they usually forget about Austria, and it's easy to break into a market with not so much competition. It's more or less a very easy way to break into markets one doesn't have planned, with not much more work to do in the usual case, at least.
Yeah. Michael Pevec, how about Switzerland in particular? What's the demographic like here? Are there any requirements advertisers should consider when running campaigns in Switzerland versus the other markets?
Yeah, absolutely. So Switzerland overall, as my colleagues already said, has one of the most affluent target groups in the world. So very rich country with a very big buying power. But in addition to that, we have also a very matured out-of-home offering in general, especially a digital out-of-home offering with very high quality screens and a very big reach we can ensure. But what you always have to keep in mind, which is a bit special, is that Switzerland is not part of the EU. So especially when you think about like breaking into that market, what Florian already said, is you have to consider this and you have to make sure that distribution is assured. So that could be a challenge, but if you're already aware of that, you should be very fine. And it's, like Michael said, very easy to also run a campaign in Switzerland when you already run the campaign in Germany or, for example, in Austria.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about airports. Felix, Frankfurt Airport is one of the biggest business travel hubs for the region. Can you tell us a little bit about how you go about planning campaigns, targeting the different audience profiles?
Thanks, Shamini. Yes, absolutely. So definitely location is one way to do it. So for example, if you target screens right in front of all the airline lounges, you will have a large share of business travelers, obviously. But another way to target them is to go via the time slots and the weekdays. So we are in the lucky position that we have a very deep and broad set of data. So we know quite accurately when which target group is most likely to be at the airport or to be at one certain area of the airport. And by providing our clients the pre-targeting for their target group, we can give them an uplift for this specific target group. And thirdly, of course, we also target by looking at the flight plan. So this helps us obviously to target people going to a certain destination or coming from a certain destination, which is often also requested by clients.
Thank you, Felix. And I know that we, Michael, in Switzerland, you're in the process of launching Zurich airports programmatically. Can you maybe share what kind of opportunities this will bring?
Yeah, we're super excited that we're close to launch the Zurich airport on VIOOH as well. For us, I think it will bring a lot of opportunities, especially when it comes to international buyers. And what is great help for us is that WallDecaux has an international airport audience measurement that gives us the opportunity to have comparable data. For example, if you're in contact with Felix and he tells you we're able to reach that number of people, it's based on the same data that we are using. So it's very comparable. And I think what will be super interesting is when you can follow your clients internationally. So when you know that people will leave Frankfurt to go to London or then return from London to Switzerland, you can follow your clients and address the right message at the right point of contact, which is of course super exciting for us. And in general, I think Zurich Airport is a very interesting airport since it's one of the biggest in Europe, not as big as Frankfurt, but big enough, I would say, with more than 30 million people yearly. And we've just launched a new digital out-of-home offering with more than 200 screens, which is great news for us. And we're super excited to then finally launch it programmatically as well.
That's great. You touched upon the kind of advertising across airports aspect. I guess a question for both Felix and yourself. What's the next sort of development or opportunity you see across international airports?
Yeah, we'll just jump in, and I totally agree with what Michael said. I think that is a great opportunity to really follow the journey of a passenger. So a passenger going from airport A to airport C via airport B just provides a great opportunity for a storytelling approach for advertisers, for example. So as more and more airports, especially from the JCD world, are connected, this opportunity will definitely be quite important for us in the upcoming years, I would say.
Thank you, Felix. Paul, how's your how's your tech issues going on your side?
Hopefully everyone can hear me now.
Okay, great.
So,
So well, I guess yeah, of course. I guess while we're on the subject of environments, wanted to get your thoughts, because FRAMEN has unique and impactful inventory. When we think of out of home, we think of out of home being outside, while FRAMEN inventory is generally in semi-public spaces like hotels and gyms. So how do you strategically place your screens to have maximum impact? Can you tell us a little bit about the demographic and dwell time that your inventory brings?
absolutely. So other than regular digital out-of-home inventory owners, FRAMEN is focusing a lot on existing screens. So we are talking about TV screens, as you might know them as flat TV screens, smart TV screens, and we connect them with our app. Jumping on that airport topic, because everyone who goes to an airport arrives somewhere and then they stay at the hotel. And this is where I think FRAMEN is a perfect addition to that marketing mix, because the people are staying for quite a week, mostly in the hotel. And of course, they spend some time in the lobby area. So the lobby is the point of interest when it comes to our screens, because the people there have a huge dwell time. Not as huge as in our office spaces, for instance. You know, a regular working day is 8 hours. So the people are staying at least 8 hours there, and they're exposed to our screens for quite a long time. When we onboard new locations, we obviously look after the quality of the screen so that we really make sure that there's a contact of the audience within those locations.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul. Now that we have a bit of a market overview, let's discuss the market nuances. In my role as business development lead, I'm often asked by international clients about some specific points that are unique to the DACH region. And one that always comes up is the varying CPMs and obviously the differences in language and dialect. Michael, Fritz, if I come back to you, it would be good to kind of talk about these different CPMs within Germany. Like, for example, some areas such as Munich seemingly have higher CPMs in comparison to Berlin, which is obviously the capital. Can you give us a bit of insight as to what the reason is behind this?
Sure. First of all, when we look back 2 years and on our rate card in let's say 2021, we had different CPMs for each city. So nowadays we have just like 2 or 3 CPMs, but you're right. Munich is the CPM for Munich is still higher than for other cities. The reason why is, or the situation in Munich is quite complicated. Beside the fact Munich have the highest buying power and the highest average income in Germany, we have the situation that we are operating, or we are market the digital out-of-home portfolio as a joint venture between Ströer and WallDecaux together. And we have, although we have the rights to sell the digital out-of-home inventory, we have not the flexibility in setting the prices in Munich, because we always have to discuss it with our partner Ströer down there. And that is why we have always a different deal for Munich, always a different CPM. It's more kind of stable in that case. For other countries, for other cities, I'm sorry, we have the flexibility to align the prices in the first place. And also when it comes to discount or that stuff, we have more flexibility in other countries than other cities than in Munich.
Thanks, Michael. Paul, is this the same for FRAMEN as well? Do you see this? Because obviously you've got some more sort of indoor as well, like you mentioned earlier, hotel lobbies, etc. Does this also hold true for your inventory?
Yeah, I completely agree with Michael here on this topic when it comes to Munich. But at FRAMEN, we have a baseline of our CPMs based on the inventory, right? Because talking about a hotel, for example, there are 3-star hotels and there are 5-star hotels. And this is where we built the range of the CPM, because obviously the audience in the 5-star hotel has a higher buying power than somebody or someone in a 3-star hotel. That's why the location is not that important for us when it comes to CPM. It's more the audience and more the venue type that you're targeting. Overall, we try to find the standardized CPM through the different venue types we have, no matter what country we're working or talking about.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul. So obviously very, very dynamic and audience-led. Michael Pevec, it kind of lends me to the question that I've got for you then. For APG, you're a multilingual market with German being obviously one of the main languages as discussed earlier, but how do you determine where you should run French, Italian and German creative on the different screens?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's obviously a special situation in Switzerland, but it sounds more weird than it actually is, because Switzerland is divided into 3 different language regions, but they are very it's geographically clear which language is needed. So we exactly know which screen should use which language in the ad. So it's not a big deal. It's not a problem. It's very clear, and it's very easy for the buyer to determine which language region he wants to advertise in.
Excellent. Thank you. Florian, are there any market-specific nuances for advertisers to consider for Austria versus the other countries in the DACH region?
Yep. Operationally, I think we couldn't be more different than the Germans. We have one CPM that fits all of Austria, so that's an easy one for us. On the other hand, buyers should likely consider that Vienna, the capital of Austria, is the 2nd biggest city in the DACH region, just behind Berlin, which means it's bigger than Munich and Hamburg in terms of inhabitants. And that tells you a lot about Austria, which means we're super centralized in one city, which means if you have this city in your focus, you're mostly good for Austria, despite there also being like regional hubs like Salzburg or Innsbruck if you cater towards skiing or culturally focused people, etc. The 2 million people in Vienna are absolutely key though, and we at Gewista have our focus on particularly urban inventory in Vienna, stands for the majority of our of that with our high quality inventory, and also Austrians would likely kill me for it, but I'd say that if you use the lingo that the Germans use without leaning too much into it, it should usually work super fine as long as you're generic enough. Maybe not lean too much into German localisms and specific linguistics, etc. Formal standard German works perfectly fine. Also, it can be tacky if a brand leans too much into localizing advertising and goes full on Austrian. It almost never comes into fruition that way. So going with standard German works very, very good here.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, so we can see media owners are innovating in many ways. 3D creatives are a hot topic in the digital out-of-home industry at the moment. And I understand that we've had some 3D campaigns in Frankfurt Airport. Felix, it would be great to get your opinion on why advertisers are choosing the airport environment to run such creatives, and any sort of insights you have around verticals that have been most popular.
Yeah, thanks, Shamini. I would say, as you said, it's a very hot topic at the moment. So we receive briefings for 3D campaigns from basically all verticals or a very diverse field of verticals. So we had Disney, we had Takoya, we had Glenfiddich, just to name a couple of them. And I think this is like, or we get a lot of these briefings because other than, for example, the UK or the US, the number of large screens that are capable and where you are allowed to play 3D content in Germany is just quite limited. And we do have some very large indoor boards, our digital business board and our deluxe board, that are capable of 3D content. And this is probably the main reason that we receive a lot of these briefings. And yeah, so far it works just fine for us, and we keep getting more briefings as it's just a big buzzword at the moment. But yeah, of course, you always have to have the creative for it, and creating this 3D creative is can be challenging, but we do have specifications that are just like made for playing 3D content, that tells you exact the sweet spot of each board, how you have to do your creative in order to have this 3D effect.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Like building this creatives is sometimes a question mark for a lot of advertisers or creative agencies. Michael, on your side at WallDecaux end, I understand that you are sometimes involved in building creative solutions such as 3D creatives or DCO creatives. Could you tell us how easy or hard this process is to enable it programmatically?
Sure. I mean, in terms of 3D, I fully agree what Felix said, that we see a lot of requests for 3D creatives. I would say every third or fourth brief has a request for 3D. And actually for 3D, it's very easy because the technical specification for 3D are 100% the same as for every other dish out of home campaign, except Munich and Nuremberg, because we only can send or broadcast stills in Munich and Nuremberg, but on all other screens we are allowed to have 3D creatives as well. And although we don't have these large big screens like you are familiar with Piccadilly Circus in London, our motion design team as well as agencies found a way of the use of an optical illusion in some case, that you have the 3D effect on a actually 2D screen when they use a frame, and that works really well. And we help our clients to make in 2D creative or in 2D creative to 3D creative just by adding an frame to an existing creative asset. So that's actually very easy. And as I said, all our screens are ready for 3D creative when they allow to broadcast video creatives. With DCO, it's kind of complicated because most of the clients and agencies are afraid of the effort they need to bring into building and the DCO creative. That is why we have additional resources like it's called a creative developer who helps with all the technique behind when building in DCO creative. And we really love that way of campaigns, because when you use DCO, it used the full potential of digital foam actually, because you can target based on the context, on the target group and that stuff, time, weather, whatever you like, and that needs still support from us, but we are always happy to help here to see more DCO creatives on the streets.
That's great.
Wow, some fantastic insights so far, guys. So definitely going to shift the conversation and get all of your opinions on my next topic, which is measurement. Clients are interested in seeing what success looks like and what the measurement options are for out of home, such as footfall, brand uplift, offline to online. What's exciting or available in your markets that you're seeing that could really excite advertisers and really start the conversation about what they can expect from a measurement perspective? Felix, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jem. So yeah, first of all, to measure our impressions, we use AAM. It's called Airport Audience Measurement. It's a currency that was implemented by JCDecaux, and it is now used by almost all major hubs worldwide, like Paris, Charles de Gaulle, London Heathrow, Hong Kong, Singapore. So all these airports use AAM, which is also great for us. And different to street, we know exact the path the passenger will take. When a plane lands, for example, we know the exact path and we know the screens where he walks along and how he gets to the luggage claim area and so on. So we basically work with the big modeling of the airport, and into this model we push information from from flight data. So all the flight data information, all the booking information we have. So it's 99% of all the bookings go into that model that we know at what time which passenger lands at Frankfurt. And then we can calculate the impression per screen that we have. So that's the method we use to calculate our impressions. On the one hand, on the other hand is what I mentioned earlier, that we have a very, very deep set of market research data that puts us in the position that we can tell you quite accurately which target group will be at the airport, or most likely at the airport at what time. So business target group, for example, will be in the morning hours, for example, and then on the evening hours on a Monday or Thursday, just to give an example. And that gives us the possibility to provide the client with an uplift number within that target group. So that's basically the second figure that we provide.
Fantastic, all very sophisticated and very insightful. Michael, Pevec, from your guys' perspective?
Yeah, we're in a quite comfortable situation since we're working with a company called Swiss Postal Research, and that company provides the out-of-home currency here in Switzerland probably since decades. So the good point about that is that the entire market uses the same data. But for us, it only works for the screens at at street furniture, or for example, at the train stations. At Zurich Airport, we use exactly the same data that Felix was speaking about. We also use the airport audience measurement provided by WallDecaux, which also again puts us in a very good position and makes advertising comparable over all the big hubs that Felix just mentioned, but forgot Zurich. So that's something to keep in mind. No worries. So yeah, overall, I would say we're using a very reliable measurement partners to provide very accurate data of your campaign.
Fantastic, and that's very, very important, right? To use that reliable data sources that gives confidence to advertisers.
Absolutely.
Florian, what about Gewista?
Similarly to Switzerland, we also use out-of-home industry standard data from the DOOH Institute. Unfortunately, not as good as in Switzerland. Not every player on the market is on that standard. We are, though, and this is a good thing for us, I guess. We in Austria have a great currency with this regarding measurement, because every single screen one can book programmatically is tracked individually and separately on an hourly basis, daily. And the data is based on one of Austria's biggest telecoms companies, which means a lot of data points to track and measure. So the currency you buy is based also on a model that has been developed in the UK and Germany mathematically by some very smart mathematicians from Oxford, where they also include the flow of movement into the CPM, and also like the potential viewability of those people going around. So what you buy here is basically something that is akin to, if you know, your online equivalent of a viewability adjusted contact. And regarding anything further than that, footfall, etc., drive to web, we're basically on the same platforms that the countries of WallDecaux are. We're using a plethora of tools they have to their exposure, and we can offer a similar experience here.
Fantastic. It sounds all very, very robust for Florian. Paul, FRAMEN, how are you guys tackling measurement?
No.
Paul? Might be some technical difficulties. I'll switch therefore to Michael Fritz from a WallDecaux perspective.
Yeah, so actually when talking about measurement in Germany, it's more about the performance of a campaign. So we have the one pillar of how are the data are calculated and where are the impressions are coming from. But on the other hand, we often speak about measurement in terms of performance, and therefore we have that actually 2 or 3 pillars that are become more and more familiar for clients and agencies, and that's a brand lift study, you know, from the online space, a footfall measurement report, and the third one is to show or to prove how the impact of a programmatic campaign compared to a direct booking is. That means if in higher CPM really leads to a better share in the target group, is there a target group uplift in terms of reach and in terms of like performance figures. But what I would like to add is that we love to see that both DSPs and agencies are trying to move forward omni-channel approaches or omni-channel measurement. You have some DSPs that try to prove that there is an impact from digital out-of-home campaigns on online campaigns or from digital out-of-home campaigns on TV campaigns. So they try to build an omni-channel measurement tool, and the same is Data Corp. So JCDecaux, the central data department in Paris, is trying to doing the same to show and prove that there is an impact, and we love to help and to see that is really what the media agencies in Germany want. Everybody knows digital out-of-home is like the famous star right now and in the media spaces. But the next question is it really worth it? And that is why we have a lot of conversations about performance, because the budgets are increasing these days. And the question next, as I said, is what is really in it for me?
Absolutely, and it kind of helps speak to the different stages of the funnel, right? Because out of home traditionally is seen as more upper funnel, but it's clear from what WallDecaux are doing and what this space is doing from an omni-channel perspective, we're looking at lower down the funnel for performance as well. Thanks, Mike. Paul, we're going to try again. Is it working?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, fantastic. Yeah, so if you could give us,
Sometimes the whole audio is crashing.
Okay, no problem. If you could give us an update on what FRAMEN are doing in the measurement space, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. So we are working very closely with our location partners. So we're getting the first-hand data about members. Think of a gym that has 400 members. We see when they are coming, when there are the peak hours. For retail, we get unique sold units at the counter. Same for gas stations, we see unique payments. For hotels, we get unique bookings and even seasonalities. And we have a huge team from business data experts that are calculating and working on those impressions to keep them as accurate as possible. Since we're working internationally, we have not found yet a third-party provider that could support in that topic. So in Germany, we work, for the DACH region, we work very closely with the DMI. In the UK, we're working very closely with VIOOH. So I think those are common providers, but VIOOH doesn't work in DACH and DMI doesn't work in the UK. So we have always a little bit of problem with the certification. So that's why we're keeping our location partners even closer to us.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. And look, that shows, advertisers, just by speaking to all of you on the panel, that there's so many different types of measurement that can be explored in this space. So it's definitely worth asking the question. If you're thinking of moving into programmatic out of home and looking at how you can measure success, absolutely speak to VIOOH, speak to our media owner partners to see what resonates with your client. But as you can clearly see, there's options in all different stages of the funnel and the performance and the branding space. I'm just quickly looking at the questions. I'm going to move over to my final question, but for the audience, if you have any, please use this time to post anything in the Q&A section and we'll read them out later. But from my perspective, finally, for everybody on the panel again, what recommendations do you have for advertisers looking to run across the DACH region? In your mind, what are the do's and don'ts that they must follow? And Michael, Pevec, I'd like to start with you this time, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say there's only one. Do it. It's super easy. Since all of our inventory is on the same platform, every buyer should be capable of buying through VIOOH. So especially in Switzerland, I think we have a very easy to understand and very easy to scale product. So we have only one base CPM. We're working with an industry standard as the company that provides the performance of the campaign. We know exactly where to run your campaign, where to reach your target group. And yeah, I think there's especially if you already bought online inventory, you should check out digital out of home in Switzerland, because I think we have a very competitive pricing in terms of or in comparison to online CPMs. And yeah, a premium inventory as said in the beginning. So all of our screens are at least 55-inch. We can mostly run basically like in 90 or 95% of our screens, we can run video advertising. We're now also experimenting with 3D creatives and DCO. So yeah, just do it. Just give us a call and we'll figure it out. Shouldn't be a problem.
Fantastic. I love it. Just do it. Excellent. Florian, I'd like to come to you next, please.
Well, Programmatic offers itself to buy on one platform based on one currency. It's easy, but ultimately out of home is a very local product. So content isn't necessarily king, context is. So do get in touch with us. If you need intel from us, your local ears on the ground, and we know the best surroundings, the best places, the best times, etc. We're the #1 in the field. We've been here for 100 years. We know the Austrians. So whenever there's anything you'd like to know as a client, just reach out and do not shy away from that.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. That expertise is vital, right? Tapping into local market expertise. Felix?
Yeah, thanks. I would say the region offers opportunities for both, for generalizing messages, at least within the, let's say, German-speaking part of the DACH region, but also for individualizing messages. So check your campaigns. Both approaches could make sense. You could take synergies by generalizing. You could also go in to individual messages within the markets that will also be noticed by the target groups. So yeah, check your campaigns and do it or adapt it to the DACH region if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, that customization is very, very important as well, Felix. Thank you. Michael, Fritz from...
Yeah, well, my take is on this is we often see briefings that are like, we would to advertise in the 5 biggest cities in Germany, what is usually Berlin, Hamburg, Munich, Cologne, and Düsseldorf, or Frankfurt. But keep in mind that when your business is operating in all 3 markets, or your product is available in all 3 markets, that the 5 biggest cities in all 3 markets are not Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, Cologne, and Frankfurt. It is these first 3 and Zurich and Vienna. So better to brief or rethink your briefing in terms of this, and then add Frankfurt Airport as the biggest airport at that region, and then you have a very good coverage in the DACH market for your campaign. Also, when you have a limited budget.
Yeah, excellent point. Especially, when you say the top 5 cities, it's not just the 5 cities in Germany. There is Vienna, there is Zurich that you need to look at. And of course, to kind of supplement that with an airport like Frankfurt is very, very important. Last but not least, Paul?
I absolutely agree with what was said before. Talking about the DACH region, I can speak, I think, for all of our inventory owners here in this round. The DACH market in total is still for international clients a not too underestimated market, because as you guys said at the beginning of the call, we have a very huge buying force compared to the rest of the world. We are very open-minded when it comes to new products, and overall, all of those 3 markets are very multicultural. So even if you have new brands, new products that you want to test in the European market, I think the DACH market is always a good start to introduce your brand, to introduce your products. And yeah, don't forget to mix it all so that you reach the audience on all important touch points. That's everything I have to say to the DACH market. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that's very, very important, right? Mix it up a bit. It's a good market to test new innovative things, and it's a great test bed to then roll out to the wider EMEA and other regional campaigns that you might look. Guys, thank you. That's all the questions I have for today. let's have a quick look to see what our audience has sent in. We have one from Tony. He's asking, or she's asking, could you tell us what percentage of total revenue comes nowadays from programmatic in digital out-of-home screens, and if programmatic has helped to bring new advertisers to out-of-home media? Probably going to start with Florian for this one.
Sure. I mean, the answer might not be satisfactory for a couple of people here, but the thing is, we started with programmatic roughly a year ago. So the share in programmatic in comparison to direct bookings is around 2 to 5% at the moment, which isn't a lot here in Austria, but it's rising significantly. Regarding incremental growth of clients who didn't book before, yes, we're seeing that. Obviously, big agencies, etc., are spending their money on programmatic, but they're usually more reluctant because they don't really have the business model ingrained to them. What we're seeing a lot is clients directly booking stuff with us that they haven't booked prior. And also what we're seeing is that little digital agencies who were just used to doing like Google and Facebook ads, etc., found it quite easy to tap into our portfolio and extend theirs with the offering that we have. So definitely a thing here.
Thank you. And Michael Pevec, are you seeing similar sort of trends from your side?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think in terms of percentage, it's very difficult to say because it really depends on the maturity of the market. Probably the other Michael will tell you a very different number than I will tell you. I think we will be at the end of the year at around like 10-15%. But this is the area where we grow the most, and especially when it comes to new buyers and to buyers that are used to buy online programmatically. As Florian said, it's very easy for them to understand that they can extend their campaign also in the out-of-home space, which is super interesting. And again, I think the medium itself has very competitive CPMs, and obviously it is very how to say, it is perfect for branding campaigns, since your message will be displayed on a very big ad. It is always visible. I don't know if it's the right point, but what I can say is, especially when it comes to ad fraud and topics like that, we've just finished a verification by PwC that provide us some kind of like certificate that everything we report is actually happened. And so I think it will be the numbers will increase dramatically, since it just makes perfect sense for buyers to buy it also programmatically.
Thank you. And as you've mentioned the other Michael, let's bring the other Michael into this as well. Let's see what his perspective is.
So we actually have the advantage that we started in 2019 already, but let me say it the other way around. We have a more or less public goal that is called 50-50 by end of 2024. That means that 50% of all our revenues shall come from digital out-of-home, and another 50% as of the digital revenues. So and we are on the very good way to reach that goal. That means that we see, let's look back to April or March. We saw about 40% of our digital revenues were from programmatic, and there's kind of growth in the programmatic space. And what is fascinating for us is that the speed of the increase, or the programmatic revenues ramp up. So the speed of the growth rate is increasing. And that is really, really cool. And the advantage we see in terms of new business is that back in the days, the minimum booking volume for direct out-of-home bookings was very high. You needed to spend at least, I don't know, 100,000 euro per city to run a campaign that leads to about 500,000 of budget for Germany. And now with programmatic and the impression-based selling, you have the possibility to test and learn, right? You can spend 10 or 20,000 euros in 1 or 2 or 3 cities, see the impact, and then you go step by step to increase the budget. And Programmatic offers that way of test and learn for digital out of home, and that's really great.
Fantastic, thanks, Michael. And Felix, are you seeing that same for the Frankfurt Airport?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're probably in the revenue share term, we are probably somewhere in the 1-digit percentage area, but that's actually not the important figure for us. What we really do see is that we get almost only incremental revenue from our clients. So we have verticals, or we have clients we've never had before. And this is most important for us, basically. And also what Michael said, we see clients with also smaller budgets that are now capable of affording campaigns at Frankfurt Airport. So that's for us, it's most important to have incremental revenue alongside with our IO business.
Excellent. And Paul, from FRAMEN's perspective?
Yeah, so I can agree so far on that what was been said. For us, our aim is that every screen that enters our portfolio is automatically programmatically connected. So talking about campaigns, every campaign basically is programmatic in our inventory. I need to differentiate it from open demand, where we also have, I would say, 1%, like 1%, 1-digit percentage of open demand. And I think that digital out of home entered the programmatic space is very good for the media itself, because it gives a lot of exposure to digital agencies, right? Agencies that are just focusing on selling digital online campaigns, they now have the possibility to switch to digital out of home, which is great. And as the others said before, even with smaller budgets, they are now allowed to enter those big screens. And I think that's a major, major benefit for all of those advertisers and as well agencies, right? Actually, we are at 75% of programmatic campaigns we have running, and the rest is 25% is IO classic.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Tony, for that great question. I think that brings us to time. So all that's left for me to do is thank our fantastic panel for their valuable insights into the DACH region. You can see there's lots going on, lots of options for advertisers to really explore this region. So on behalf of the panel and VIOOH, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.